Hey everyone, Brian Harris here with Harris Vacation Rentals and Realty Group in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We've put together some information for our homeowners and those that have been affected by Hurricane Sally in our area. We've got a video with a lot of Q&As, so you have more information about your policies and about your rights dealing with the insurance and dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Sally. If you have any questions after you watch this video, please just reply to this email or click the link on this video and we'll be happy to help and get questions answered for you. We appreciate you. We hope that you are safe after the storm, and we hope that you are rebuilding after Hurricane Sally. That's been such a devastating event for our area. Again, appreciate you. I hope this helps. We've had a lot of questions that we feel like we've answered today, so we appreciate you watching through. Reply to this video if you have questions. We're here to help. Thanks so much. Thank y'all for coming. I want to introduce myself, Brian Harris here with Harris Vacation Rentals down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We wanted to take a minute today to talk about storm damage, insurance policies, what to do before the storm, what to do specifically after the storm. I've got two experts here, both attorneys, Smith Prestwood with the Prestwood Law Firm. I've got Jason Vishio here with Vishio. Thank y'all for coming. Tell us a little bit about what y'all do and how y'all want to help today.
Sure, Brian. Thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm an attorney here in Baldwin County. My office is in Fairhope. I spent the first part of my career working for insurance companies and defending them for a firm in Mobile. Sure. And did that for about 7 years before I left that firm and switched sides, as they say, to work for the claimants, for the policy holders. Okay. And I've been doing that ever since.
So you've tasted it from both sides now of the playing field. Thank you so much. And Jason, tell us about your firm.
Sure. So my firm is Vishio PLLC. We're based in Naples, Florida. We also have a satellite office in Miami and now Pensacola. So my firm's been in existence since 2015. Like Smith, I started my career defending insurance companies. And I think about 11 years in, started my transition to doing more plaintiff-based work. But in the beginning of my careers, I represented some of the larger insurance companies in two of the largest insurance defense departments in the world.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do for our owners specifically, because we manage properties here in Alabama and in Florida, is just get them some information about what they need to know about their insurance policy, about what to do after the storm. So we'll go into some of those types of things. And I'm glad that we have attorneys both from Alabama and Florida that can help make sure we get the right answers. So first off, after the loss, so the storms come through, everybody knows how to prep, but let's talk about right after the loss, mitigating damage. I know that's important. How do we go about that? What are the first steps?
Sure. One of the first things you want to do when you return to the property, whether it's your home, your office building, condominium, is you want to take a lot of pictures. Pictures of everything you see, pictures of whether it's trees down, trees on the structure, damage to the structure, damage to the roof. You want to document everything you see. The next step you want to take is you want to make sure that you're mitigating your damages, as you say. And that's something your policy requires of you. It requires you to take reasonable steps to stop additional damage from occurring. And the most common thing we see in mitigating damages is putting tarps on the roof. Okay. So that we can stop the rain from coming in, stop additional damage to the interior of the home. Also, in mitigating damage would be dry out. If the interior of the home or the interior of the building is wet, you need to take steps to begin drying it out. Depending on the extent of the moisture, that may require you to bring in a dry out company.
Okay.
When you first arrive at your property, make sure that the local authorities are letting you back into the area. Check with them before, especially if you live on a barrier island or anything like that. Check with your local authorities. There's emergency numbers that they'll have set up. If you're outside of the area, go onto the internet, make phone calls to maybe the sheriff's office, sure, and make sure that they're permitting you back in the area. Make sure that you also have your identification with you. so that you can prove you're either a property owner or a resident of the affected area.
And that would be, the storm passes and that sort of thing that I know are very common here for our properties. Okay. So basically, stop the further loss, pull out or dry out the interior of the property as best you can. Is it important to keep records, and what should we be keeping records of?
Number one thing that you need to do is keep a diary of everything that happens. Everybody you talk to, no matter whether it's your insurance agent, an insurance adjuster, a claim handler, make sure you keep a diary of all those conversations that occur, because if you have significant damage to your property, this is going to be a long process. And when you get 6 or 12 months down the road, you're not going to remember all those conversations that occurred. The next thing is make sure you confirm any conversations with your insurance agent, your insurance claim handler, or an adjuster in writing. The easiest way to do that is with an email. And just make sure that you have that documentation in place, because if there were a misunderstanding or a dispute arises later, you're going to have that email to go back to and show what happened.
Right. Gotcha.
In addition to that, you definitely want to keep any and all receipts or invoices from contractors for the work performed. And what Smith said is great, to definitely keep a diary. And I would add to that, even put that diary into a folder. You can use what we as lawyers refer to as red wells, and keep it in a red well or an accordion folder or a 3-ring binder. Okay. Just keep something where as soon as you get a receipt, an invoice, anything, photographs that Smith was referencing earlier, put those all into one place.
Right.
It's just going to make everything easy. And then also with emails, make sure you print them out. Emails sometimes your accounts can be hacked. You can have them deleted. I would say all photographs should be backed up. I've had so many clients come to me and say, I had all the photographs of the damage on my phone, and I either lost or destroyed my phone.
Dropped it, lost it. So yeah.
Back up to the cloud, print them out, do something, have a backup copy so that doesn't happen to you.
Right. And really, I think the best thing, advice is just start from the very beginning, start building that diary, that file. It's going to get bigger and bigger. One thing, Smith, that you said that I wanted to make reference of is this is going to be a long process. You said 6 months, 12 months. A conversation I just had a few minutes ago with a property owner is, we've gotten everything mitigated. We've gotten boards on the windows and tarps on the roof. Take a second, take a step back. You don't have to rush. This is going to be a long process, so get ready for that. All right, Jason, I want to throw this one to you. The permanent repairs. So we've talked about quickly mitigating damage, but what about just fixing everything right away?
Really, the two words you want to know are you want to do temporary repairs.
Okay.
So the temporary repairs are what's going to mitigate further damage to the property. And that can include tarping, or something that roofers will refer to as peel and stick, putting that on your roof, shoring up any holes in the building if it's been punctured by a tree branch, drying out the interior, getting some air movers in there or dehumidifiers that companies like and I don't know who's in the local area, but ServPro, ServiceMaster, Fire Service, all those companies and similar companies could provide, because obviously we live in a very humid environment. So the more that the interiors of our home are subjected to, our elements outside, the worse the damage is going to become. So you want to do temporary repairs, but what you don't want to do is immediately do what I would refer to as a permanent repair, or completely fix the property where you would not need to do further work to it. The reason you don't want to do that is because you have duties under your policy to allow the insurance company to come out and inspect the damage, maybe not just once, and in some instances, especially with Hurricane Irma and Michael, which we worked, 3-4 times. So they might send initially an insurance adjuster out to inspect the property, but then they might want engineers, they might want other experts, doors and windows experts, to come out and see the property. And if you've permanently repaired them to the point where there is no more shoring up to do, the property's back to its pristine nature, right, the legal term would be you've spoliated or destroyed the evidence that they need, or they feel they need, to properly evaluate your claim.
Gotcha. And one thing that we're seeing here is we did that initial just after the storm inspection, And we went into properties that looked reasonably okay. And then we went back, and now we're starting to see water damage, on ceilings, water damage on roofs, that sort of thing kind of show up after the fact. In the vein of what people need to know, Smith, because we've heard from a lot of different people, and they're getting adjusters from all over the place. In these catastrophic situations, where does the adjuster come from? Who do they work for?
Sure. One thing everybody needs to remember, and we're all the same way when it comes to insurance and insurance agents. The agent is the person that we've always dealt with. The agent is our friend. The agent is somebody that sold us the policy. But when it comes time to make a claim, everyone needs to remember that there is an inherent conflict between you, the insurance company, and anybody that insurance company works for. I mean, at the end of the day, what is good for us as the policyholders is not going to be good for the insurance company. So everyone needs to keep that in mind throughout this process, that they have to stand up for their rights. Don't place their reliance in the agents, the adjusters, or the claim handler that works for the insurance company. Now, specifically, just with respect to those adjusters, a lot of times in catastrophic claims, such as the situation with Hurricane Sally, the insurance companies are overwhelmed with claims.
Sure.
And so they don't have the capacity to send out in-house adjusters to adjust those claims. And so they hire out third parties to adjust those claims. And that's what we're seeing right now in Baldwin County, is we're seeing third-party adjusters come in to adjust the claims. And in these situations, the bar to becoming an adjuster in Alabama is very low. So unfortunately, when there are large catastrophic losses like this, a lot of times we see either very inexperienced or no experienced adjusters writing claims. So that's something we always tell clients to be on the lookout for.
Okay. So really in this situation, the client has to be their own advocate.
A lot of times these CAT or storm adjusters who work for independent companies, not your insurance company, these CAT or storm adjusters have no ability to discuss coverages with you. They're basically observe and report back to the carrier. So they should just be looking for damage. If they start getting into coverage, if I were a homeowner, I would say, look, all you're to do is to report the damage and report it back to the carrier. And they typically write what's called an exactimate estimate. Exactimate is just a program that has its imperfections, but it's a pretty sophisticated program that gives real-time pricing on various items that unfortunately in certain aspects or in certain respects is insurance company friendly. But they will write and prepare what's called an exactimate estimate, and then the insurance company that receives their exactimate gets to go through and compare it to the coverages in the policy. Once they compare it to the coverages in the policy, then the exactimate would be finalized, so to speak, and would be sent out to the homeowner or the property owner to look at.
That's when we're actually, the homeowner's getting that number, that claim amount from the insurance company, is when all that has happened.
When all that's been done, it has to be reviewed by the carrier, and I've heard hundreds of instances where the storm adjuster comes out or the CAT adjuster comes out and says, oh, you're definitely getting a new roof, you're definitely getting this fixed. And then it goes back to the carrier, and the carrier doesn't give them a new roof, and the person just can't understand, well, the representative from the insurance company told me I'm getting a new roof, they told me I'm getting a new kitchen, but that didn't end up being the case. So I wouldn't be surprised by that, just given the nature of the relationship that unfortunately most homeowners aren't aware of.
What type of vendor relationships do insurance companies have? Will they connect a homeowner with a vendor? How does that work?
So in Alabama, as the policyholder, you have the right to choose your own contractor, meaning you choose who fixes your home. Generally speaking, an insurance company cannot make you use a particular contractor. Now, some insurance companies do have preferred vendors, and the claim handler may suggest that you use that preferred vendor, and at times that could help your claim proceed faster. But that's not always in the homeowner's interest. And at the end of the day, it's the property owners, it's their property, and it's their right to choose who they want to repair their property.
Just really briefly, and again, this is in Florida. In Florida, the preferred vendors, there's only a few carriers that utilize it. I'm not quite sure about Alabama. But again, what Smith said is dead on. Like in 99 times out of 100, you're going to be able to choose your own contractor. Sometimes you can even act as your own general contractor and just pick the subs. Like in Florida, homeowners have the right to do what's called owner builder permit. So they could be their own contractor and then choose all the different subs and do their own permitting and everything. So it's good to know that. The only caveat, and we don't want to go too far into it because we're getting into some pretty hyper-technical legalities of policies, but there is one instance where a carrier might have what's called a right of repair. And so if homeowners hear that language, that might be one exception to the rule of, you do not get to, or I should say the exception to the rule that you get to choose your own contractor.
Gotcha. Okay. And one of the buzzwords we've been hearing, or I've been hearing, trying to make people aware of, is an A of B, or an assignment of benefits. Can y'all go into what that is and if we want it or don't want it?
Sure. An assignment of benefits is where the policyholder is assigning their benefits under the policy to a third party. Where you'll typically first see these assignment of benefits is with the mitigation contractor. For example, if you were to call in a ServPro or a Service Master, or you were to call in somebody to even tarp your roof, they may ask you to sign an assignment of benefits. And what you're doing in that is you're giving your rights to make an insurance claim to that contractor. Some contractors can be sneaky with these assignment of benefits. They can make you feel very comfortable telling you that they will handle everything with the insurance company for you. You don't have to worry about anything. But typically with my clients, 99% of the time, I recommend they do not sign an assignment of benefits. It's just you don't want to give up the rights you have to someone else. And this all goes back to you have to be looking out for your best interest throughout this claim process. And if you give your rights to someone else, that shifts it into their hands.
Sure.
There are limited circumstances where an assignment of benefits can be useful. For example, if you are trying to mitigate your damages, you're trying to dry out your home, and the only contractor you can find to do that wants an assignment of benefits or money up front, and you don't have the money to give them up front to start that work. In that scenario, maybe an assignment of benefits would work depending on the situation, but you certainly want to limit the assignment to that limited amount of work. But typically I suggest do not execute an assignment of benefits if you can help it.
Okay. And if we had to, we could limit it to, let's say, just the mitigation or just the tarping, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Is there any alternative to an assignment of benefits if you do need cash to mitigate the damage?
Sure. So as we talked about, you have a duty to mitigate. If you don't have the cash available to do that, make your insurance company aware of it. And I'm not talking about your agent. I'm talking about the person handling your claim, who the claim handler that works for the insurance company. Tell them that you need to do whatever the work is. You need to do dry out or you need to do roof tarping, and you can't afford to do it, and you need an advance on the claim. And try to get that advance from the insurance company first. It's rare. Insurance companies don't like to do it, but I always recommend try that first, because not only is it better than executing an assignment of benefits, but it shows that you are trying to comply with the policy provisions.
Right. And again, we're going to document that request and document.
Absolutely. Anything you can put in writing, put in writing.
Jason, anything else on that?
Sure, just to add some cautionary tales or some war stories. So in Florida, the AOB laws changed drastically on July 1st of 2019. There was a bill that came in that effectively eliminated a lot of the beneficial aspects of an AOB. And while AOBs are still legal in Florida moving forward, even though a lot of people, they now say they're illegal, they're not. They're still legal. They just do not have as much of a benefit to the homeowner, and in fact are detrimental to the homeowner or building owner in a number of ways. The one thing that we saw a lot, especially through Irma and the beginning of Michael, was that AOB contractors come in and look, there's a lot of good AOB contractors. The problem is your typical homeowner, your typical building owner is not going to know the good ones from the bad ones. And so, just like there's a lot of good ones, there's a lot of bad ones. And so the whole thing with AOB contractors is they're going to come in, they're going to promise you one-stop shopping. And what do we know about the coast in Florida especially? It's a lot of people who are from up north who snowbird or have a house part-time. And so everybody thinks, well, this is great. I can turn over my claim to a contractor. In exchange, they take on essentially a fiduciary duty towards me, but discuss their estimate with my insurance company, and then they repair my property at the end of it, okay? It sounds great. The problem is that, like we said, the bad AOB contractors out there I've heard stories where they filed suit without informing the homeowner. So you might find out that, Jim Smith, it would be like a AOB contracting company as assignee of Jim Smith has filed suit against insurance company X. And all of a sudden, you're going to be deposed in a lawsuit that you might not even know about. We've seen that. We've also seen, especially with partial AOBs, we've seen roofing consultants who come in and take an assignment of benefits that's buried in their contract, and they get up on your roof and then they charge something like $25,000 for the roofing report that they write, which should be worth somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. And then they file again a lawsuit on your behalf that you're unaware of, and you might not have ever even seen the report. So again, I'm not meaning to trash AOB companies, because there are some great ones out there who do a very good service for their clients. The problem is the homeowner's just not going to know, whether or not the company that they're talking to is one of the good ones or one of the bad ones.
Okay. Couple of questions I want that y'all brought up from this conversation. One, when should someone seek out legal help? Is that before they sign a contract with a contractor? How does that work? With an attorney or with a project manager? How does that work?
Sure. Well, I would say if at any point during the claim process you feel uncomfortable, immediately seek out help from an attorney. Whether it's from day one or you're 3 months into the claim, and something happens that you're uncomfortable with or you don't understand, absolutely at that point seek out help from an attorney. Where we see the most people contacting us is after the homeowner or the property owner has received that initial estimate back from the insurance company, and they're either they're unhappy with the amount, or it's obvious that the insurance company, the insurance adjuster did a poor job writing the estimate. If there's things missing from the estimate, that's typically where we see most of those first calls, and we go out and take a look and try to get the homeowner what they want.
Okay. So once you get that first number back, if that's way off or you feel like it's, not seeing all the damage, that would be the time at which point you could reach out and say, hey, I need some help with this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'd add to that, in the commercial context especially, sometimes if you have a rather complex loss, you might have a lot of latent damage, you have a large property. I would even add to that sometimes the earlier the better, because commercial coverages are much more complex than your residential policy. And the way that the claim gets presented to the insurance company initially could drastically affect the outcome. There are coverage limits buried in all commercial policies. There are exclusions. There are different duties that commercial building owners have. So the earlier you can get a lawyer, or in Florida, a lawyer or a public adjuster involved, the better off you're going to be.
Okay. And public adjuster, is that something that's just available in Florida, or is that an Alabama thing as well? And what is that?
Let me let Jason explain what a public adjuster is first, and then I'll give the Alabama context of it.
Sure. So a public adjuster is essentially an adjuster who acts on behalf of a homeowner or a property owner. So just like the insurance companies have their adjusters, it would be someone who's able to do what well, first of all, they have a public adjuster's license. They're subject to certain statutes in Florida, but they can do and adjust your claim just as well, if not better, than what insurance company representatives and adjusters are doing. So it's someone who can come out and do many of the same things as an attorney. The difference in Florida being that obviously if you get into a stalemate and the public adjuster can't settle the claim, the public adjuster cannot sue. So they obviously do not have a law license and they can't practice law, but at least in Florida, because I know there's differences that Smith can talk about with Alabama, at least in Florida, public adjusters are able to write up your claim and present it to the insurance company, speaking the insurance company's language and in a manner that would be palatable to the insurance company. But they can only take the claim so far.
So this would be someone that a homeowner might call if they felt like that first claim report, or that first number they got back was just not even close, or I don't feel like this is the right path, we're not getting anywhere. Public adjuster could be the next step for the homeowner in Florida.
Yes.
Okay. Is that hold true in Alabama, or are there different?
No, there are different laws in Alabama. The big one being that in Florida, the public adjuster can advocate on behalf of the policyholder, whereas in Alabama, a public adjuster that is not a licensed attorney cannot do that. What a public adjuster would be limited to in Alabama is writing an estimate for the homeowner. The Alabama Bar has come out with opinions stating that public adjusters cannot communicate with the insurance company on behalf of the homeowner, and there have been some statements even saying that a public adjuster should not be providing advice to an Alabama policyholder because that's the unauthorized practice of law. So public adjusters are really limited in Alabama, which is why more likely than not in Alabama you see policyholders hiring attorneys. And when our clients do that and hire us, we step in those shoes and advocate on behalf of the client, and we bring in other estimators to write up that estimate and do the functions that a public adjuster does.
Okay. So slightly different, well, I guess really kind of a drastic difference in the law in regard to public adjusters from Florida, where it seems like they're more of an advocate, and in Alabama where they're pretty limited on what scope of work they can take on.
That's correct.
Okay. I think this has been terrific. Thank you both for coming and explaining the Alabama side, the Florida side. Is there anything else y'all want to kind of summarize with or wrap up with?
Look, there's a lot of complexities in insurance policies. What we see oftentimes with homeowners in particular is that homeowners almost feel embarrassed that they don't understand what they're covered for, what their what their deductible is. I mean, really basic questions, right? But what I tell everybody that I've dealt with is, look, there's no insurance 101. You don't learn it in high school, you don't learn it in college, you don't even learn it in law school. There's insurance classes, but to understand a policy, you have to read policies day in and day out. And so there's no shame in, going to a qualified professional, again, whether a public adjuster or an attorney, depending on if you're in Florida or Alabama, to ask for help. Because the insurance companies, unfortunately, while we do have some, very solid adjusters and insurance companies, there's also a lot of bad actors out there too. And unfortunately, we saw thousands and thousands of claims that were underpaid in the state of Florida after Irma, even after Michael, where Michael's wind speeds blew through almost every defense that a reasonable insurance company could have. And yet, 2-3 years after these storms, there's still tens of thousands of claims that are unresolved. And so, as much as you want to believe that it's something like, don't worry, I'm self-sufficient, I can handle this, there's no shame in reaching out to different contracting professionals to inspect your property, and reaching out to people who are here to help you to get through the storm.
Yeah, and I would second what Jason said about the complexities of the insurance policy. I mean, 99% of policyholders don't read their policy until it's time to make a claim. And then when they pick up the policy and read it, it's like they're reading another language. Sure. I mean, they are very complicated. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help, like he said. Another thing is, if you're asking for help from your insurance company, there's a lot of good insurance companies out there, but there's a lot of bad ones also. There's a lot of good insurance adjusters, there's a lot of bad ones, and you're not going to know who you're dealing with. Right. So definitely from the Alabama context, I'd reach out to an attorney for help with that.
Okay. And again, kind of wrapping up with, you are your own advocate in this situation. You do have to stand up for your own rights, and you do have to seek out knowledge to know what your rights are per your policy, and that's where y'all can come in and help.
Absolutely.
Jason Smith, thanks so much for hanging out with us. I hope this was really helpful for our homeowners, and then just getting information out to our local community with such a devastating storm in Baldwin County and over in the Panhandle of Florida. We hope this helps homeowners on the right track. Thanks so much, and I appreciate y'all coming.
Thank you.